Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to the High Energy Entrepreneur Radio Show on the iNetpreneur Network. I'm your host, Donna Guinouard, and I'm super excited that you joined us here today. Today, we have three incredible speakers, members of Network Together, and entrepreneurs. But before we get into that, three things. Please subscribe to this channel. Make sure you bookmark all your networking activities at ntevents.net. We have lots of virtual for everybody. And like us on our Facebook page. The iNetpreneur Network is where entrepreneurs, business owners, influencers, and experts come together to talk about their challenges and their triumphs, their impact and their tragedy. Let's get behind their stories and learn from their perspiration and their inspiration. You know, I'm joined here today with none other than Robert W. Jones, the owner and founder of Network Together. Hey, Robert.
Hey, Donna. I always get like goosebumps when you say that because oh my goodness, owner and founder, and But what's
well,
really
you are.
crazy? Yeah, I know. But what's really crazy, and I have to tell you this, is I'm still getting used to it myself because I always like to think of myself as the boss, right? The boss, the entrepreneur, owning my own business. But I know that there's the true boss, and that's Sean Jones. And so right. Sean's like, you know what? We're going to do a little change up on you, Robert. We're going to start calling you the owner and chairman of Network Together and the iNetpreneur Network. So I myself am really trying to get used to what my new title is. So
right,
well, because of her.
Right, I'll have to change that over too.
Yeah, right.
Right. So, and I'm used to saying owner and founder because I've known you almost 4 years.
I know it's gone by like, hey, we'd already be graduating from ASU at this point,
Exactly. We're the same.
Of course, I don't know if we'd be walking across stage right now.
No, we wouldn't. So, Robert, I am so excited about our guests today. They are incredible. And all three of them have something in common. And that's that all three of them have their own radio show.
I know. It was like, how did we come up with that? Steve Rozansky has a radio show, Kimberly Minor a radio show, and Jim Grant. And what's crazy? I looked up all the metrics, and it's like, boy, between the three of them, there's like about 100,000 views every month for these three rock stars. I mean, how do you deserve this? I mean, that's a pretty incredible following for all of us.
I know. I am so honored to be able to interview them.
The first up, you have Steve Rozansky, and what I really like about Steve Rozansky is my wife and I have brought our cars to his particular shop, several times, and you don't actually think of a shop as being friendly, an auto shop. You usually think of the opposite. But what we found is not only the great members of Network to Go, they provide the greatest service, and his team has actually helped out several members, such as Dr. Karen Perkins, who came in here from Utah.
Yeah, he does a lot of business with a lot of people in Network Together, and well deserved too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really excited about hearing from him today.
I am too. So Robert, before we get into that, I have a couple of questions. What do we got going on this week in Network Together?
Oh my goodness, probably the biggest thing that we've been working on, Donna, and I've been spending a lot of hours, and I've been working with another Network Together member, is we decided to change the intention of what the networking looks like. And once you create an intention, you have to create the attention. And Jim Grant was in our mastermind, and we were talking about that. So we did an image makeover for the networktogether.net website, believe it. So it looks, I think it looks really stellar. We have to do some more embellishments on there. And
awesome.
Yeah. So go ahead, everyone, go to networktogether.net and let us know what you think about the website. We're really excited about that.
And we have some exciting news that one of our chapters has decided to go ahead and go back and open up in-person meeting starting, June 3rd?
Yeah, the Mesa Central chapter with Chris Gilbert and Angie Poirier have they're going to start meeting in person again, and we have a few other chapters following suit. Now, I know we had to pivot really quickly by going from an all in-person organization to an all virtual organization.
Right.
But, the original game plan was we were going to have both in person and virtual, meeting arrangements for all of our chapters. And, the COVID or the coronavirus, depending on what you want to call it, kind of expedited that up a little bit. And so
just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. So what we're going to do with the 14 chapters that we have across the United States is we're going to have, I think we're having 8 of them that will be in person. We'll have 6 that are actually virtual. And what we found is for the member feedback has been this, is they feel like they get the best of both worlds because they can come together in person, of course, work on those interpersonal skills, but they also get the larger canvas of being able to be virtual in places that where they can meet members, in ways that they haven't met them before.
Absolutely. It is fun because, for example, I can't make it out to Santan or Queen Creek readily available because of the distance.
Right. Absolutely.
But I can sit right here at my computer and boom, be right there.
And really, and for some of us, it's just really a great way to kind of keep back and forth. And, our leads passed, absolutely. Our new people coming into groups, absolutely. And, in a way, for some of us, it saves enough drive time where we're actually getting to meet, quite a few more people each and every week. And actually, for some of us, maybe even a lot of us, we're doing a heck of a lot more business because of that.
And more one-on-ones, I think.
Absolutely. So
I think it's beautiful.
Well, I'm excited for the show, Donna. You are a rocket today. And
I am. I'm excited.
All right.
I'll see you in a minute. Okay, guys. Our first guest, I am so excited, is Steve Rozansky.
Hey.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Welcome to the show. It's
Thank
exciting to have you here.
I'm excited.
So before we get into the actual questions and the interview, I like to brag on my guests a little bit. So
go ahead.
Bear with me while I brag about you. I know you're so shy from New York. So Steve is the owner of Friendly Auto Service in Mesa, Arizona, with 22 service bays. Guys, that's huge. He's been in business for 43 years. He has his own radio show and is happily married for 26 years and has 3 beautiful children.
Yes, I do. I've been in the business for 43 years, but I've been in business in Arizona here. We're in business 6 years here at the Auto
Total
Center.
43.
Yeah, 43 total. Yeah, I had a shop in New York. And then I moved out here and we opened up out here and I've been here. We're open Friendly Auto for 6 years now.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, okay, I know you're from New York. So give us a little background for everyone who does not know you, how you came into being in this business, because I know a little about your story. We know each other a little bit here, but it's really interesting because one of the things Robert and I talk about, Steve, is that some entrepreneurs are born and some are made. And you are a beautiful blend, a kind of a marriage of both, really.
Thank you. Well, be honest, I got a job when I was younger, around 1976. I worked all kinds of jobs. I worked for a milkman, whatever I had to do to make money. I delivered newspapers, cut lawns, and this very nice man gave me a job pumping gas. Back then, gas was full service.
Right.
At a little gas station, and his name was Joe Doyle. Very, very good man. Him and his wife Diane gave me a job pumping gas, and I showed an interest. I always was interested in cars. And he kind of took me under his wing. He said, between pumping gas and, on Saturdays, he would let me hang around in the shop and learn about cars, show me how to do stuff. But what he instilled in me, and which is we still do to this day, was keep it a neighborhood shop. No matter how big you get, no matter how successful you get, remember where you come from and keep it as a neighborhood shop. And people would bring lawnmowers and chairs to weld, and if he was on his way home and somebody broke down, he'd open the shop back up. And that's the kind of business I always wanted to run. So I literally dropped out of high school and went to work for him in 1977 full-time as a mechanic in this little 2-bay shop with another guy. And I I worked there for quite a long time before I left and, went out on my own. I owned my first shop in 1984. And at the same place, I actually bought that place. And it was successful. And I've always owned a business since then. And I pretty much learned everything on my own. I read a lot of magazines, went to a lot of classes. There was no internet back then to learn from. So, I read hundreds, literally. Even if you come to the shop, you'll see dozens and dozens of books. I read a lot. And I learned a business. I was a master mechanic in 1979. I got my first ASE Masters Award. And I renewed it up until the last couple of years. I kind of let it expire, but the knowledge is still here. And I've always kept a very organized business, a very well-run business. We try to give a really, really great value because I felt that was always important. Don, I'm sure you've gone to the dealership or some repair shop or had a vendor at your house, and he's showing you something. You don't know if it's good or if it's bad, and you kind of feel intimidated. And people react to auto mechanics or servicemen like you want to be their friends. Like you may ask a million questions, but your husband, he may want to be right, and they'll oh yeah, it needs a Framistan, and he'll say yes, and he'll say, oh yeah, I know this guy, yeah, he's honest, and then they leave with a big bill. And they have no idea what they just paid for. And I said early on, we're not going to run a shop that way. We're going to be totally transparent, totally honest, and this is how we do business. And I've always done it that way. And a real quick story. And if I tend to drag on, don't be afraid to knock me down. When I opened up the shop, I opened up Family Auto in New York, and it was my first big shop. And I used to work, ask my wife, she'd tell you, I'd work till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. It didn't matter. I would work very, very hard. And I remember this lady, she came in for an oil change, and she was very, very disrespectful. She was very belligerent. And it was my first day of opening the shop. And I see this radiator hose that's swollen. Okay. We call it pregnant in the business. And she keeps saying, what are you looking at? Just change the oil. And I want to tell her, you need a radiator hose because I know it's going to break. And I didn't say anything because she yelled at me, don't look at anything. 2 days later, she came back. She goes, what did you do to my radiator hose? That day on, I tell you what's wrong with your car. I'll show you what's wrong with your car. We'll give you a lifetime warranty of anything I do. Because I feel if I can't give you a lifetime warranty, what am I doing here? I want to do it right with the quality parts the first time, and we're good. And that is how I've run it for 40 years of me doing this. And we still do it to this day.
Right. Well, one of the things I appreciate about you and your business, Steve, is I was a single mother of 3. And when I would take my car in to get fixed, when I was living in Ohio, I would get that whole, oh, she's a female thing. Let's just add this on and this on and this on. And then pretty soon, you go in for a brake job and all of a sudden it's like $800-900. And you're like, what? And I don't know a lot about cars. I know a little bit, but I do know when they're blowing some heavy duty smoke.
Oh, without a doubt. You can go to a doctor and one guy says you have tuberculosis. The other guy says you have VD. Which one is right?
Right.
Always, I probably could have used a better example, but you always get a second opinion. And you really want to know. And don't be afraid to ask questions. All right. Mm-hmm. Because if they're honest, they'll be able to answer it immediately. But if they stumble or falter or I have to check, you don't want to go there. Me, because I'm a mechanic and an owner, I can answer all your questions. Some repair shops they're businessmen. They were selling aluminum siding a year ago. I got to check with the mechanic. Well, who are you doing business with, me or the mechanic?
Right.
It's two different things. But that's what we do. And again, we started, when I opened the shop, we had 4 bays with 2 lifts, and that's really all I wanted. And I got a little carried away. We got a little busier, and We were up to 16 lifts now. But we have 22 bays, and we're adding 2 more lifts in the near future within the next 6 or 8 weeks. So we're going to stop at 18, I hope, and that's it for us. But we're able to service pretty much any kind of make, model. I mean, we have giant lifts, small lifts, you name it, we do it. Right now we have a forklift and like one of those Green Acres tractors over there. And people do everything. And but we get it done. I got an amazing staff. I got to be honest with you. I've had hundreds of guys have worked for me over the years. This is probably the best staff I've ever had. And they're not even watching. I'm saying it because I'm telling you, these guys are awesome, you know, and we spend a lot of money training these. We take them all over the United States for the best training that money can buy. We have the best of the tools. We're not cheap about this.
Right. But they appreciate your honesty, your integrity. And I love the fact that you actually are mentoring them in that same way, because unfortunately, you know, we're of the same generation. We're baby boomers, Steve.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I really feel that the younger generation, unfortunately, doesn't understand that, you know, when you say, hey, I give you my handshake, that's something. That's important. And we are that generation, and to bring that back to them and mentor them in such a sped up world that we have now is a beautiful thing.
Well, I like doing business by handshake because business, you know, I know people say business is business, but it's really not. It is personal. I get to know a lot of customers over the years, and back in New York, I had 3 generations. I had the grandmother, the mother, and the child who just started driving. It was not unusual to have 3 generations of families that supported me for years. And I remember when 9/11 hit, I was in New York, and a lot of people were out of work because people on Long Island a lot worked in the city, and New York was closed. Hurricane Sandy, I was there for that. Hurricane Irene. And each time where some of these people lost their jobs, you know what? They supported me, so let me help them. And you know, their car needed fixing. I knew they had an appointment. I would call them up. Where's the car? We don't have the money. Don't worry about the money. You'll pay me when you have it. And that's what I mean by neighborhood, because business is personal. I know my customers. I know what they can afford. I know what their needs are. I know what their their vehicles requirements are. And one of the things that we do is almost all the employees we have been with me since we've opened, just as we continually add on. We have virtually 0 turnover. The same people have worked for us. So 3 of the mechanics have been there for over 5 years. So the same mechanic will always work on your car. We don't, you know, so even though Exile may have done a brake job last time and you're here for a water pump today, he's going to be getting it because he knows your car. So we always keep the same mechanics. I have 2 great service advisors, service managers. I have Manny and Adam, same people. And of course, Eric is director of marketing and operations. So everybody knows everybody. And we keep the same people with the same mechanics. Everybody knows you. Everybody knows your car. And yeah, it's personal. And why we like it.
I love that. I love that. So I want to ask you, Steve, when we wake up in the morning as entrepreneurs, we are not always ready to go. Let's get the day on. You know, sometimes we have bad days, right? What do you do to get yourself in that moment?
I walk every morning. Me and my wife do a few miles every single day. And what we do is that's when we talk about business. I don't want to bring business home. I don't want to talk about it at night. I don't want to talk about it in bed. We wake up, we're out of the house 5 o'clock every morning, every single morning. We do about a 3-mile walk. And if there's business to discuss, we discuss it. My wife's a very powerful realtor, Felicia Rozansky. And, you know, we talk things out, and we talk about what's going on in business. We talk about, you know, we have a lot of employees. We have 13 employees, and they're all people. They're not numbers. They're not just punched cards. They have lives. They have wives. They have children. They have situations. And we have to try to help them as much as we can. So that's what I do. And usually while I'm shaving or brushing my teeth, I usually watch some type of either sales training or some kind of business thing, maybe 10 minutes. You don't have to read a whole novel, just little bits. One of my favorite, Jeffrey Guinouard, has tons of stuff on YouTube. and every morning I'll do 5 or 10 minutes, or I'll find some stand-up comedy, something to get my juices going, laughing,
Right.
get in a good mood. And when
Right.
I drive to work, rock and roll music, loud and
There,
fast.
there you go, loud and proud. As a high energy coach, I always recommend that people do for the return on energy what works for them, either exercise, music, something that puts them in that mood. So, obviously you're doing that exact same thing. What do you do when you take off your entrepreneurial hat to recharge for your return on energy? I call it, in high energy performance coaching, as an energy coach, I call it your ROE, your return on energy. So what do you do, Steve, to recharge?
I drink heavily. No, I'm kidding. What do I do? Well, I try to come home, eat a nice dinner, maybe smoke a cigar, try to relax, with my wife and family. We're virtually empty nesters now, so it's pretty much just us. I read the newspaper, watch a little TV. We'll do, if the weather isn't burning hot, we'll go for another walk at night, go in the pool. I do try to relax. Now I'm home a lot more with this coronavirus thing, so I'm spending a lot more time home as I am now. And, we have a beautiful backyard. Arizona is a wonderful place to live. It's an outdoor life.
It is.
So we spend a lot of time outdoors. We have mountain bikes, and I like taking rides. We live right near Usery Park, so we go right up into the mountains. And that's kind of how I recharge, but I can't be business 24/7. I can't.
No. And Steve, what hours or what days and hours are you open? Could you tell the folks out there?
Absolutely. We are open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. I want my guys to have normal hours so they can get home for normal time for dinner, and they have weekends with their family and kids, because before you know it, it's over. We all have kids. You know how fast that goes. One day you're holding them in your arms. The next day they're going off to college and they're getting married. So
right. My middle daughter turns 25 today. So I'm like, hello.
there you go. So
Yeah, I do.
That's how I recharge. And I'm married to a really wonderful wife. She's definitely high energy. And we've been married, I think, almost 27 years. So
I love it.
Yeah. So it's all good.
I love it. With Steve, I can't thank you enough. Folks, you are in need of, we all have cars. We all need an oil change. You got a little clink clank in there. Go see Steve at Friendly Auto, because I'm telling you, you will not regret it. And Steve, let them know what your guarantee is real quick.
Forever. You only pay once for auto repairs.
There you go. I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show and taking time out of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve. Wow, was that incredible? Steve is such a nice man, and I love his heart, a true servant's heart. Our next guest, speaking of servant's heart, is none other than Kimberly Miner. Hi, Kimberly. Welcome.
Hello. How are you?
I'm wonderful. So before we start the interview, I like to take a minute and brag on my guests. So Kimberly is the owner and founder of Holistic Living Health and Wellness. And she is also the host of the Kimberly Miner podcast, Your Best You. And she has just recently created and getting ready to kick off Envision You, the Transformation Starts Here Summit. So welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. This is kind of fun because for those of you who don't know, this is a little bit of switching the seat around. Kimberly had me.
It took a while, but we got back around.
I know. So Kimberly had me on her podcast. It's been a year and a half ago, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I've been doing my podcast for over a year now. So yeah.
It was just early on. So it was early into your podcast. So this is really exciting. So let's do a real quick background, because I know there's lots to talk about and I want to make sure we get everything in there. So you are not from Arizona. You are a transplant, and I know that you were a ballet dancer, and so yeah, so that's pretty cool. So tell us where you were from and how you decided to make that quick leap and come here and start as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. So that's a lot of questions in one. So let me just kind of unwind all those questions. So yeah, my past, number one, I'm actually from Michigan. So I spent most of my life back in the Midwest. So Arizona is basically a new home to me. I've been here, it'll be 4 years in June, which is hard to believe. It seems like it's been a blink of an eye. So I'm not sure how all that happened so quickly. But yes, in the past, I started my life out as a ballet dancer. I started when I was really young, and I was actually in an amateur company when I was a kid growing up, and I spent years in the amateur company that I would go during the summers and spend 8-week programs with professional ballet companies all over the country. And that really helped me develop a lot of the same attributes that I take with me today that I use in my business, as far as learning how to be competitive, learning how to be having determination, to keep going for it when things get rough. Those same attributes are things that you learn when you are a top athlete working towards something. Is that when the going gets rough, you have to get rougher. Is that you have to have resiliency within you. If you don't have resiliency, you're not going to make it very far. And when you are in spending 25 years in corporate world and sales, you had to have that resiliency in you to make it anywhere. And I've taken that with me when I decided to move to Michigan after surviving 3 pulmonary embolisms. And I made the decision at that point that I was going to leave the corporate world behind me, and that I was actually going to do what I had wanted to do for years, and thought, and I'm sure you can relate to this as a single mom, you do what you think that is most beneficial at the time of what is going to be imperative for the lifestyle that you have at that moment for your children, of what's going to be flexible and work in there and stuff. And that's what I did with my 2 children. And at the time, my baby was off in college, and I thought, I'm finally at a point in time where I can do what it is that I need to do for myself, or what I wanted to do for myself. And I thought, okay, I've always wanted to own my own company. I've always wanted to do something. Over the years, I couldn't quite figure out what exactly that was. But when I spent 8 weeks in the hospital after my embolisms, it was a lot of time that I got to spend with myself, and a lot of self-evaluation, and a lot of journaling, and figuring out what it was that things that had transpired in my life leading up to there. And one of the things that I found is that I wanted to help other people figure out what they need to do with their life to move beyond the things that were blocking them. And I looked at the adversities that happened in my life, and I wanted people to not feel like they had to settle and feel like that those adversities define them, because that was some of the things that happened in my life, is that I kept feeling like controversies that came up, or adversities that came up in my life, that they kept defining me. And instead of feeling like I had it out somewhere, I kept making choices that I thought were good choices at the time, but wound up being choices made out of situations that led to other things that were not of best choices for myself. And
so, wasn't a good interest for you.
Exactly. So, moving forward, I thought, you know what, this is what I want to do. This is really what my calling is that I'm going to take what it is that I've learned and I'm going to help others figure out what they need to do. And I do it on 3 premises, is that, where have you been, where are you now, and where are you wanting to go? Because if you understand where you are with those 3 things, you can figure out where you need to go forward. And in that process, you can it's so important to own who you are. Own the adversity.
Oh, absolutely.
Own the adversities that you have been through, and own whatever flaws you think you have. Because when you own those things, you have a foundation to build from. And then, that's when I decided to move to Arizona, not knowing one person, not having a job. And I came out here and I started a company from nothing and not knowing one person, and built everything that I have now.
I love that. I know with my own background, because our paths are eerily similar. One of the things that I tell my clients, and I know you do too, but I think it's important to talk about it really quick, is just because you've been there and this has happened doesn't mean you have to live there. Understand it, own it, and then go forward.
Right. Absolutely.
Right? Because, if you stay there, you're going to stay stuck. And that's essentially, what happens. You have to identify it and move on. And that's one of the things I love about what you do. So tell us about, I'm excited about Envision You, the Transformational Summit. So tell us a little bit about that. I know that our very own Sean Jones, CEO of Network Together, is the host of your summit.
Yes, I couldn't be more excited about it. There was no other one that I could think of that I thought was more appropriate, especially for my very first summit of this nature. It's one of those things, when I went to put the summit on, I thought I was going to have it here locally, and then the pandemic hit, and now it's not being here locally, but now it's globally.
Right.
So Sean has been an amazing person to not only have as a friend, but to have as a business colleague, and to have part of the summit. She has added such an amazing element to this. She gives such amazing ideas, and she gives great guidance. And she, lets me come to her and say, hey, I'm looking for some ideas and stuff of, how can I make this the best summit possible? And the basis of Envision You is about all our unique characteristics as women, and that knowing that each and every single one of them matters. And it doesn't matter if it's in a business sense or a personal sense, is that owning every single part of them, and that nothing defines you, that they're only moments in time, and that those transformations can take place. And, the definition of success is failure. And
right.
So if you understand failure, you actually have all the tools you need. It's kind of like building a house, is that you actually have all the tools and you have all the wood and everything that you need to build that house. And so all you need to do is have somebody tell you how to give you kind of a manual of
a step-by-step guide of building blocks
of what to do with all those things that you have at your feet, of what do I do with all this stuff now to build this house? I've got the tools, I've got all the supplies I need. What do I need? How do I do this successfully? And that's kind of what the Envision You is all about, is that I've brought 12 speakers from across the country together, and I've handpicked every single one of them, because what they provide is that they each have had their own journey, and they each have had their own failures, and have come out on the other side with success and developed their own company, and they're each helping women in their own way. And with bringing the combination together, they help bring the purpose of this specific summit and what the goal of this summit is. And sometimes we all have different personalities, right? So between the 12 of them, one of them is going to say something in a way that's going to resonate with you. And then that transformation is going to plant itself within you, and that process will begin.
Right. Somebody's going to get that epiphany moment.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it's super, super important to understand that, you know, as women, we go through, and because we are women and most of us have children, that we wear many different hats, and we often wear them at the same time. And so I get it. I love what you're doing, because you're kind of taking those layers and being able to separate it and saying, you know, here's a place for all of them, and let's marry it together and build from that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is exactly what our goal is that take everything that you've learned. And, you know, during this time of this pandemic, is that it has kind of stopped everybody in their place. And so many things that beforehand that we were so busy doing in the midst of, that we would get ignore and not address. When times, you know, how many times have we been in life and stuff and said, oh my gosh, I wish we just had a moment in time where life would just stop. So that
time did stop.
Yeah, and time actually did stop. You know,
Right.
It's kind of like the universe said, okay, like we hear what everybody's saying, so we're just going to like
time out
the whole thing and just stop. And people said, oh, wait a minute, I wasn't ready for that. And, you know, all the things that that we hadn't necessarily addressed, or things that were bothering us, have percolated themselves. And so people are in the midst of figuring out, you know, oh, well, you know, that problem, it actually didn't go away. I was just really busy with life.
Right. It hasn't been dealt with.
Yeah, I was hiding in work. I was hiding in the busyness of my kids having 80 million different activities that I was involved in doing. You know, my spouse and I were like so busy and stuff that we, you know, didn't have time to communicate and stuff. And now we're like stuck in the same house for like days and days and weeks on end. And we don't know how to communicate with each other. And we don't understand why there's like this issue going, or, you know, we're having to work in the same house, or, you know, the job is not there. And how do I recreate myself? So
it's a juggling balance.
There's a tremendous amount of transformation that is taking place. And this is a great opportunity for you to figure out how to help start that process and make things go in a different way for you.
Absolutely. So Kimberly, we have a few minutes left, and I want to ask you, you know, as an entrepreneur, we don't wake up every morning going, yay, rah, 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 life's perfect, right? There are mornings that it's a real struggle. What do you do? What is one of the things, just one, that you do to, on those days that you're a little off, but you know you got to get back in the game? What do you do to get yourself in a better position?
One of the, you know, the way I kind of look at life is that I always feel is that there's just no other choice. That no one else is going to be there to do it for me. So I might as well do it myself. And I always find a way to give myself some time to feel whatever it is that I'm feeling, and I time it. And then when that time is up, I get on with the rest of my day. And if there's any suggestion that I can give any of the viewers and stuff, is that when there is difficult things that happen in life, and you know, life is always messy, and it's not about the mess, it's how you deal with the mess. And so find a way to minimize the amount of time that you give relevance to it each day. And if you have to get on a timer, set the timer. When the timer goes up, then get into life and enjoy whatever that day is.
Absolutely. You know, as a high energy performance coach, one of the things I tell my clients is you need to find your space, whatever it is that makes you happy. Whether you just sit there and meditate, and a meadow with a stream in the forest is your thing, visualize that and get in that happy space and feel that emotion, so it takes you out of that negative space you're in. Would you not agree something along those lines is helpful for everyone, just like your timer, kind of the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever way you can find that works for you, then use it. and it's
Yep.
different for everybody.
Oh, absolutely. So one of the other things that I talk about is ROE, return on energy. And that is really important for me personally and for my clients. And I talk to them about this. So what do you do, Kim, to when you take off your entrepreneurial hat to get your return on energy, ROE, back and rejuvenate yourself so you can come back to the table full of energy and ready to take the world by storm?
I'm a little bit addicted to working out. So that's the huge thing for me, is that I go out and I like to work out, and that seems to decompress me, as it gets all the stress out. It really gives me an opportunity to put my earbuds in my ear, put my country music on, and, just tune the world out, and I feel at peace.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. So real quick, let everyone know what day Envision You, the Transformation Summit is.
Oh, thank you. It is June 13th, and it is from 9 to 5, and they can find it at envisionusummit.today.
Awesome. Kimberly, thank you so much. I am so excited you made time to let me, interview you and be on our show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Donna. You're amazing. I love you.
You are amazing. I love you too. Ladies and gentlemen, is Kimberly not awesome? Like I said, I've known her personally, and I'm really blessed that she's in my life and my friend. And we, do a lot of the same kind of things that way. Our next guest this is a treat, ladies and gentlemen. There he is, none other than Jim Grant, all the way from Texas.
Hi, Donna. How you doing? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, Jim. Welcome. I'm so excited you're here.
Oh, I'm honored to be here. It really is. And when I got the email message that said, "Would you like to be on the show?" I couldn't help but say yes. I mean, just quick enough. I didn't want to give you a chance to change your mind.
Wouldn't do it for $1 million. So before we start the interview, Jim, I love to brag about my guests a little bit. So, I'm going to take a quick minute or so and brag about you. So Jim is the co-founder of Speakers Pathway Coalition. He is the host of international radio show and podcast, Your Future Is Now. And Jim has proudly served in the U.S. Army for 31 years and retired as a Master Sergeant. And I want to thank you for your service.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to wear the uniform.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I am just tickled pink you're here today. So, when it's getting ready to have you on the radio show, I did not realize, for whatever reason, Jim, I always thought you were from Texas, and you're not.
No, originally I grew up in North Carolina. Then I went into the Army and just I lived in Arizona for 20 years. You didn't know that either, did you?
Well, I read that and I'm like, holy moly, Jim, we got to talk more because we know each other.
Oh, yeah. That's for sure. First time I spoke to you that's right. First time we spoke on the phone. Yeah, I called her up because I'd asked her something. I was on my way to Phoenix. And she said, hello. And I talked to her. I said, how you doing? She says, who is this? I said, it's your long lost cousin. She's going like,
right?
Yeah, right. But we just hit it off.
Yes,
we just hit it off.
I love it. I love it. So Jim, this is awesome because one of the things that Robert and I talk about a lot is not everybody is born an entrepreneur. Some are self-made. And, I know from a very young age, I was out hustling, raking leaves for 25 cents at my neighbor's. And, if I was lucky, I also got a box of Cracker Jacks. So, that was bragging rights, right, in the family. But, sometimes we go into business and business corporate world and it works. And sometimes we find out that it doesn't work. This is actually like your fourth, fifth career.
Actually, my third. Because I had a military career for 31 years,
right.
28 that was in the reserves. And in my business career, I had done several things, managed stores and all that. And, I wasn't happy in a lot of things I was doing because I did manage a store one time that ran in the red for 3 years in a row. In 6 months, I had to turn in, showing a profit. And it just really, wasn't my cup of tea. And then I got into manufacturing on my own manufacturing plant. I really enjoyed that. And then, of course, me and Don, we started the Speakers Pathway Coalition. And the thing that I'd like to share with folks, if I may, and Donna, I think you can really relate to this, is that when I was 55 years of age, and I'd been in the service for 31 years, and I had to mandatorily retire. It's kind of like you're getting too old and too ugly.
Yep.
And that was a wake-up point for me, because I thought, wow, this is a new experience for me, because I've been young all my life, but what I lost and what I really missed was my military family.
Right.
And I kept searching around, and it was just gone. I mean, we're still friends and all that, but the connection of being there, it was gone. And then when Don and I met up, and we eventually, many years later, we started the Speakers Pathway Coalition. But what we did, we now have what you and Robert and all the good people at Network Together have. We have a family, and that is valuable. And even though that, we can't meet personally or whatever, we can still meet virtually. And that is extremely important, because everyone, I'd like to tell this story. I created the LLAR in one of my courses. The L stands for everyone wants to be liked. Everyone wants to be loved. Everyone wants to be appreciated. And the R, well, Aretha Franklin knew when I graduated from high school I couldn't spell too well, so she spelled it out for me. RESPCT. Everybody wants to be respected.
Absolutely.
And that's important. And that's what you get in Network Together. That's what we have at Speakers Pathway. It's all about serving others, because when someone comes in to us, the first thing we want to know is, what is it that you want to do? It's not what we want you to do. What is it you want to do? And like with Network Together, you guys, you want to figure out how we can be a blessing, how you guys can be a blessing to me. And I'm looking how I can be a blessing to you. And, you're talking earlier with the other two speakers, what they do to get up, and when they're down and all that, count your blessings. Look at the people that you've touched their lives and helped them. And that that's a good pick me up right there. It really is. And,
well, I got to say, if I can interrupt you real quick.
Sure.
Of course, I'm a member of Network Together. Everybody on the show today is a member of Network Together. But, I'm also very privileged and honored to be a member of Speakers Pathway Coalition. And there is so much more that I need to learn. And I'm excited. I've got a little time coming up that I get to really plug into my computer, and I get to learn. And if it wasn't for you and Don, I wouldn't be sitting here.
I tell you, I'm really touched for you to say that, because, like I tell people, you're very, very special. Look at your thumbprint. That's an external sign that no one's ever had your thumbprint. And your mission in life is, how can you leave a positive imprint on others? And that's what it's about. And, if you just say, we're just so thrilled and glad that you're a part of the Speakers Pathway Coalition. We're glad that we provided enough value to you to attract you. And tomorrow we will wrap up our 45th episode of the Messages of Inspiration, Hope, and Support. And that's where we put on a free presentation for people to come in, speakers from all walks of life, share their knowledge and all. And I want to share a story with you, if I may. And
Absolutely.
Folks, pay attention to this. I'm sitting there, I'm getting ready to go live, and this one in the speaker says, well, gee whiz. I looked at the other speakers, and, not the ones on the day, but the previous ones we got listed. And there's 3 or 4 people that's already talked about what I'm going to talk about. I'm kind of scared. And I said, what's your problem? Well, I'm kind of scared. I said, listen, no one's ever heard your version of it. And because we could be speaking on the same subject at the same time, at different intervals, of course, but someone's going to resonate with that individual and they not resonate with me. And there's nothing wrong with that. So that's why we got to focus on just being a good servant and don't worry about the nonsense.
Right.
Because everything will be okay.
Right. Absolutely. And that's what's so beautiful is that Speakers Pathway pulls that out of you. And they, Jim and Don and all the executive training people they have on staff, they really help hone that in. And so, they help with your business in just about every single way that's possible. So
Mhm.
I would highly recommend looking to Speakers Pathway Coalition.
Oh, thank you very much. I got to tell you a story out of school about me and Don. We're sitting there in the living room where he had, we got a lucky break. He was a rock climber and he broke his foot and he's laid up in Colorado Springs. And we've been talking about starting this. So I said, Don, I'm coming to Colorado Springs. And we made our list of executive training. Now there's a lesson in this, folks. We knew Bill Heinrich and he knew us. And we're sitting there, we're thinking, wow, this guy's a high-level business coach. We may be too little bitty to call him. So we called Koji Samadi, who we knew. We told Koji, this is who we are. This is what not who we are. He knew us, but what we're trying to do and all that. He says, I'm in 200%. He saw the need because so many people were being overpromised and underdelivered, and they just did not have the tools. And and Don says, Jim, you think we should call Bill? And I said, well, the only thing you say is no. And we called him and he says, wow, you guys are doing that? Count me in. And we're going like, wow, we're winning. Because, the point being, and the moral of the story is, when I know we're getting close on time, but it might have been a great idea for us, but when we shared our idea and our dream with others, they reinforced it was a good thing. And so now all you do then is just follow the energy and focus on serving others and game over.
Right.
That's
right.
it. And that's what we're doing with our new project. And I'm not going to get into that yet because you're involved in that. I got you drafted, girl.
I'm excited. I'm so excited. This is fun for me, Jim, because I get to today twice in a row. I get to interview. First, I interviewed Kimberly, and now I get to interview you. And I was also on your radio show, Your Future Is Now. So this is kind of fun.
Oh, it really is. And you were a wonderful guest. And I mean, folks, I'm going to tell you heads up and straightforward. I've had Robert on there several times. I've had Sean on there. I've had Donna on there. And all three of them made me look and sound intelligent. I am not making this up. They wonderful shows because all of the episodes got in excess of 40-something thousand downloads. Every single one of them. And I mean, it took us 46 episodes to surpass 2 million downloads in a podcast. And I was teasing Don because Don said, it took us 46 episodes. I said, yeah, it might only took us 23 if you had another co-host with you.
No, you're awesome, Jim. So Jim, real quick, I want to ask this. We don't all wake up as entrepreneurs that it's a beautiful day and everything's rosy. Sometimes we wake up and there's ugliness around us. What do you do, Jim, to change that for yourself? What's one thing?
For myself, mainly, I kind of got count my blessings in life because I thank God that I've got, at age 71, I got heartbeat in my veins, breath in my lungs, and good health. And if I can remember that, the things that money can't buy,
right,
then everything else starts falling into place because I start letting the physical things that can gnaw on you like a rat on cheese, I let it slide away, and I just give thanks for what I have and what I can do and things of this nature. And
I love that.
And I enjoy good coffee too in the morning. I'm a coffeeholic.
I am too. One of the things I always tell my clients as an energy coach and high energy performance coaching is find the one thing that centers you and brings you peace and focus on that. And so that's what you're doing. And I love that. What do you do, Jim, when you take off your entrepreneurial hat, to recharge your energy? I call it your ROE. And that's really important to me personally and to me to instill in my clients in my high energy business. So what's one thing you do to do a ROE for yourself?
Sometimes I like to get off to myself and, just plug in some music and just, get down, I really do. And other times I'll sit around and I'll work a puzzle. It just depends on my frame of mind, but always find a way to just relax, let all of the nonsense settle.
Go away.
And be grateful for, the wins you had that day and for the lessons learned. Okay. So you missed a curve. No big deal, right?
Right. I love that. You know, today I was out and spent half hour listening to CCR and the Doobie Brothers and a little of the Hollies.
Oh yeah, that's like with Eagles. When you listen to them, do you take it to the limit, or do you just,
Right? Yep, there were some Eagles in on that too.
Yep.
So tell us, Jim, please tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, because you know this is such an important thing that you share with the world in Speakers Pathway Coalition. So I would love for you to, give out your information.
Sure. My personal email that comes in on my phone and laptop is Grant, Grant, Jim, Jim, 3. That's the number 3 without the number sign at gmail.com. My phone number is 979-661-3793. And that's a quick way to get in touch with me.
Awesome. And, guys, Jim is an incredible, incredible coach and incredible speaker. And let me tell you what, you just can't get any better than Mr. Jim Grant.
Well, thank you. It's very kind.
It's the truth.
She's saying that because I'm her cousin.
Right? Cousins are cousins. I love it. Jim, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be on the show.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much. I hope the folks enjoyed the show. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert, that was an incredible show, was it not?
It was. And, one thing I've learned about each and every show is, no matter how much you think you know someone or how much you think you know about someone, you never just know enough. There's always something said, or it's said differently, or it's always going about, a place that's so much deeper, and it's really funny because we only have a very short amount of time on the radio show to really get to, certain parts of, the personalities and depths of each guest. But, what a wonderful job today. What occurred was just amazing, Donna.
It was. I was super excited. I mean, we're talking about 3 people who have such an incredible servant's heart in all of what they do, and yet in different fields.
Yeah, and you can feel that, you can feel about how they talk about their staff, or how they talk about their community, or that, how they talk about, what, even they didn't say it, but let's even say like a legacy, they want to create an impact and an imprint on other people, and, when they talk, you can't help but hear that passion, that purpose, and they say it from a great presence. And, they brought that out today, and Donna and you brought that out in them. And that's what makes the show such an interesting show, because, it's the triumphs and the tribulations, and it's the, the many things that, take us from where we were, whether we were born to be an entrepreneur or, all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be forced to be an entrepreneur because no one else can do it in my community. Each and every one of them, they took up the sword, or they took up the baton, or whatever it is, and they decided to do it. I'm going to create a difference. If no one else can do it, that's okay, because I'm going to be that person. And I'm really excited.
They're going to make, they're going to make that impact.
Absolutely. They make that difference each and every day.
They do. I love it. I love it. Well, this has been an exciting show, folks, and we are at the end of our time, but I can't wait to see you next week when we have 3 incredible new guests coming on. So stay tuned for next week. Bye, everybody. Have a safe week and a great weekend.